Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and today we are talking about a variety of Nintendo news. We have updates regarding the Zelda movie, Splatoon Raiders, the Duskbloods, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Definitive Edition, and even some choice words from Shigeru Miyamoto that highlights how Nintendo likes to handle their cross-promotional plans, which is definitely insight into figuring out what they have planned next. So it's some pretty cool, fun, exciting stuff, and that's what we're getting into today. Now before going forward, let me point out I have this goal to reach 60,000 subscribers, so if you find yourself enjoying my videos and you haven't subscribed already, I would very much appreciate your subscription. So Splatoon Raiders came out on July 23rd, it's been a few days, it actually came out to some pretty good reviews, an 81 overall on Metacritic, and there are some very positive things people have been saying about the game. Now, I myself haven't gotten a chance to play the game yet, I have not picked it up. I've actually been pretty busy these last few days spending time with my family and my girlfriend, so I've had a lot going on, but I will eventually be picking up Splatoon Raiders, playing it, and telling you what I think. In the meanwhile though, let's go over what others think about the game. So Gaming Boulevard here, awarding the game a 90, says, Splatoon Raiders surprised me in the best way possible. I expected a fun solo experiment, but Nintendo turned it into a surprisingly deep spin-off with raids, smart loadout choices, great bosses, and a fun co-op system. Some raids might feel repetitive after a while, but the constant stream of weapons, gadgets, mods, and upgrades kept me hooked from start to finish. This isn't just something to play while waiting for Splatoon 4, it's proof that Splatoon can work really well outside of its usual multiplayer comfort zone. So I would say there's some pretty positive stuff to say about Splatoon Raiders. That is kind of the vibe I've gotten about this game. I think it's going to be a really good time. I really liked Salmon Run, so the idea of fighting hordes of enemies with a friend or two actually sounds really fun, so I'm definitely eager to pick this one up when I finally get a chance to. But just to read a couple more summaries here to have a little bit of a broader picture. Atomics with an 85. If you spent all these years caught up in the ink-covered battles between Inklings, Octolings, and the rest of the sea-dwelling cast, we are confident that Splatoon Raiders will be one of the standout experiences on your Nintendo Switch 2 in 2026. Likewise, if you've never given the series a chance because of its multiplayer focus but have always been intrigued by it, now is the perfect time to jump in. Nintendo may not be delivering the year's biggest blockbuster, but it has once again brought us an experience overflowing with fun. One that's so well crafted and thoughtfully designed that from the very moment you pick it up, it's incredibly hard to put down. I really love what they're saying here, how it's so well crafted and thoughtfully designed. I'll say from the demo, I definitely got that sense. It's a lot of attention to detail to everything with just like the guns, the environment, how you move around, everything does seem expertly crafted. And so that does get me excited about this, and I love hearing that here from Atomics. Taking a look at Silicon Era here with an 80, Splatoon Raiders builds up upon the Salmon Run modes from Splatoon 2 and 3 in a clever way, resulting in a looter shooter with varying objectives. It can 100% be played and enjoyed solo, but I had the most fun playing with others and suspect that will prove a highlight once folks get their bearings and start perfecting their weapon, tank, and gadget loadouts. However, I will note that because it is primarily focused on taking on salmonid hordes with things like time limitations and egg requirements, it may not have the broader appeal of the mainline game's campaigns. That's interesting. I'll at least say from Salmon Run and such, I love how it works, but it's also not like your typical horde mode in other games, and perhaps people who are looking for something more typical might play Splatoon and realize it's not so typical, so I could see how that might turn off some people. And reading one more negative review here for fun, Giant Bomb, I just don't feel much of a drive to play more of Splatoon Raiders. I had fun drowning all these salmonids in ink, but just like them, I've had my fill. Really my take from all of this and my experience with the demo, because I haven't played the full game yet, is that if you like what you're hearing, you're probably going to like Splatoon Raiders, but if you're not into shooting a bunch of enemies with Splatoon gameplay, then maybe this is not for you. However, it does seem to be a pretty good game, appealing to a pretty good amount of people, and that's exciting. Moving on now though, let's talk a little bit about the Duskbloods. So there's still some time to enter the network test. We have learned that it is first come first serve, it looks like here, so the longer you wait, the less likely it is that you'll be accepted into the program, but it may be the case that a lot of people are going to be able to get in there, so if you go and join in now, you may still have a chance. There will be a link in the description below. But something else people have been talking about from the facts section of the Duskbloods network test page is this right here. Is it possible to invite friends and play multiplayer in the Duskbloods network test version? Answer: it is not possible to invite friends to play together in multiplayer in the Duskbloods network test version. The retail version of the Duskbloods is planned to include this functionality. So that is confirming a pretty important feature, that there will be multiplayer where you can invite friends in and play. I mean, you might kind of assume that to be the case because it is a PvPvE game. What I'm curious on is if there'll be any form of game share. Maybe if just one person has the game, can someone else join in? Or is it just going to be the case where everyone needs their own individual version of the game to join in and play? That's what I assume to be the case, but I guess we'll be learning more soon. Now, something else that's happening even sooner. On July 30th, the digital version for Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Nintendo Switch 2 Edition is coming out, and we recently got an overview trailer that is highlighting some pretty big important changes to the game. It has improved visuals with a higher resolution, a better frame rate, 60 frames per second, and I gotta say the game is looking smooth. This Xenoblade game in particular is the one I felt like needed these improvements the most, so just seeing this new footage here, it looks fantastic, and I'm very excited to play Xenoblade Chronicles 2 again. It's one of my favorite games ever. But they are adding some new things as well. We've gotten some footage for the Merc Assault mode, and it looks really fun. That looks like it's going to be something that's going to be really cool to check out and actually play with the individual blades themselves. And so there's going to be more to do there. But also a couple more things that are causing a bit of a stir. We have some new costumes for Pyra and Mithra. They look cool. And perhaps what's an even bigger deal is the inclusion of this new blade, Momo, a Xenosaga character. Now, what's interesting about this is that fans noticed is that there is no mention of Bandai Namco Entertainment in the trailer. And this is leading some people to think that Nintendo may have acquired the Xenosaga IP from Bandai Namco. But as we see here on Twitter, there is a community note where it says claims of Nintendo acquiring Xenosaga are speculative and contradicted by trademark records still listing Bandai Namco as the owner. So there is currently no official information out there suggesting that Nintendo now owns Xenosaga. I think what's worth noting about this for those who do not understand the history, Xenosaga is a series that Monosoft worked on before they worked on Nintendo. And so if Nintendo has the rights to Xenosaga, that gives Monosoft the option to remaster or remake or go back to the series. We haven't seen that, but we have seen some references, such as what we're getting now with Momo. This could simply be a product of the close relationship between Nintendo and Bandai Namco. So I'm not going to jump to the conclusion that Nintendo now owns the Xenosaga IP. However, because Nintendo and Bandai Namco do work so well together, I think little references like this here and there are going to continue to be a possibility. And who knows, perhaps maybe further down the road even more could happen. So something I think is a bit of a big deal is that we recently heard from Shigeru Miyamoto that both Yoshi and Star Fox, Yoshi and the Mysterious Book and Star Fox for Nintendo Switch 2, were made in large part because of the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Like, they knew Yoshi would be involved in the Mario Galaxy movie, and so they decided to make the next Yoshi game and have it ready alongside the movie. And the same with Star Fox as well, they wanted to put these things together. And what you might notice about both these projects, they're not projects that would have extremely long development times, especially in the case for Star Fox. Now, while Star Fox is ambitious, it is also a one-to-one remake from the campaign. So I wouldn't be surprised if part of the thinking here was to put this out first, because it would be a great way to reboot the series and have this ready alongside the movie, but then also have it set things up for the future where they can spend a bit more time on future Star Fox titles. But this just sort of highlights what I've been talking about for the last few years here, how Nintendo is definitely fully invested into their cross-promotional strategies here. How we see, for example, the Ocarina of Time Lego set, and when that came out, when that was announced, we were talking about how that was a strong bit of evidence that Nintendo was indeed planning for there to be a full remake for Ocarina of Time. That wasn't the only evidence, but it was one of several big points of evidence, and sure enough, what was confirmed, the Ocarina of Time remake. But just thinking about things from the context of the Mario Galaxy movie, when we saw that Fox was in the movie, that there is a game in the works, and soon after, Nintendo did confirm Star Fox, and it's already out, just a few months afterwards. And so this just sort of highlights that Nintendo plans things in this way, and so moving forward with other future Nintendo movies, that can give us some insight as to what may be planned in terms of games. And it's not just movies, as I mentioned the Lego set for example. When we see Nintendo doing different things that are going to push their IP to different places, that's what we should be paying attention to. We've seen Nintendo making a big push for Donkey Kong, and of course that led to Donkey Kong Bonanza, but this is just the beginning. It's not like these are things that are going to be one and done. They've rebooted the Donkey Kong brand, they rebooted the Star Fox brand, and there's going to be more. There's talk of a Donkey Kong movie in 2028. I think that seems pretty likely. And I also think that likely is going to come out alongside a new Donkey Kong Country, a side-scrolling Donkey Kong game. I think that makes a lot of sense. We'll see what actually happens, but considering what we're hearing here from Miyamoto, I think it's a little bit more evidence to think that Nintendo is actually very intentional about their marketing here and how they have all these things cross-promoting each other. But now getting into our main story here, we have some choice words from Benjamin Evan Ainsworth, the actor of Link in the upcoming live-action Zelda movie. So Games Radar conducted an interview with him about his role in House of the Dragon Season 3, but they also took some time to ask about his involvement with the Zelda movie. And so Benjamin said this: "I can't speak too much on the film itself, but I remember vividly when Breath of the Wild came out, and it might show my age, but I remember being quite young at the time when it came out, and so I didn't have a Switch at the time. And so, I was watching gamers play it and watching playthroughs essentially." Here they note that he was born in 2008, so yes, he is very young. Continuing, "And then, upon being fortunate enough to play this role, such an iconic character, going back and realizing the 40 years of legacy and history, and the varied tones, the varied stories, the varied renditions, and vocal performances of this character as well, yeah, I'm a big fan and just really excited because it was an awesome thing to shoot. New Zealand is a wonderful place, but yeah, can't say too much more." So, he can't say too much more, he's not leaking anything here, but he is pointing out some things that I think are absolutely worthy of note. One, some people might be concerned that he's not that much of a Zelda fan. I don't think that necessarily matters too much. I think what really matters is if someone is willing to do the research. And from what I'm seeing here, he has done the research. He's referencing the 40 years of legacy here. This is Zelda's 40th anniversary. Big things are happening here for Zelda, and Benjamin is referencing the long history with the varied versions. Not just for each story in the timeline, the different games, but also each iteration of Link. And so to me, that is suggestive that there's absolutely been a lot of thought put into this. I'm sure it's not just all on Benjamin himself, but he has to do his part, and from what I'm reading here, he is doing his part. I would say that's actually very promising. And also from what I'm coming to understand is that he has become a very, very big Zelda fan, and he is simply acknowledging, due to his youth, that there has been this long history where we have a lot of fans that have been around for a lot longer. Like, I've been playing Zelda since the 90s, but that's because I'm older, I'm a 90s baby. I think sometimes people grow concerned because they'll see actors playing a role for their favorite franchise, and they'll think that that actor doesn't actually care about that series, didn't actually do the proper research, and won't do the role justice. I would say in the case of Benjamin, there's a lot of assumptions we would have to make there because he may have become a very big Zelda fan over the years. But regardless, if he has the right direction and he does do the research, I have full confidence that he can deliver. That's how it will work for most roles, I would say. Now, this is going to be tough because with Link, he is typically very quiet, barely speaks a word, and I'm sure many fans, regardless of how this performance is done, are going to be divided on this because many people have their own image of how Link should be, and there's just no way Nintendo and Sony and Benjamin are going to be able to match up to everyone's own personal image because many of them are going to be very different. That said, I remember what happened with Mario's voice, and there was certainly a lot of controversy or debate there. Ultimately, I think Mario's voice in the Mario movies is fine. I think what's most important is that you can actually watch the movie and be immersed in it and not have yourself stopping to think about, ooh, I'm not sure if that voice fits. Maybe with the first movie, there was a little bit of that getting used to it, but with the second movie, the Mario Galaxy movie, it never crossed my mind even once. And so the hope is, here with the live-action Zelda movie, it's the same. However it is done, it's done in a way where we can stay immersed and we're not thinking about the vocal choices while watching the movie, but just thinking about the actual movie itself, the experience, the story, the narrative. That's what matters. That's good acting, from what I've come to understand, because, well, I studied a lot of acting over the years. But what do you all think? What do you make of this interview with Benjamin Evan Ainsworth about his role as Link in the Zelda movie? What do you make of Splatoon Raiders, the Duskbloods, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Nintendo's overall cross-promotional strategies? Tell me in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I will see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.